The hanging fields of Droska. The stars were quiet. The space around Earth was calm. But that peace would not last. It started with a message. A broken signal came from the edge of the galaxy. At first, the humans did not understand it. It was full of static. The image flickered. Then it became clear. The video showed a dusty world with two suns. There were tall metal poles on a hill. The wind was strong, and hanging from those poles were humans, women, their hands tied, their bodies still, their necks broken. Each woman wore a white robe with the Earth symbol. These were not soldiers. They were peace workers, doctors, teachers, diplomats, sent to help alien colonies. They had no weapons. They came in peace. Now, they were dead. The words at the bottom of the screen were written in an alien language, but Earth's machines quickly translated it. Let this be your warning. Earth's place is at our feet. The video spread fast. It played on every human station, from Mars to Titan, from Luna to the deep space colonies. People cried. Others screamed. Mothers held their daughters. Fathers clenched their fists. Children hid their faces. The Earth Council met that same night. They called it the Droska atrocity. Droska V was a planet ruled by the Galactic Dominion, one of the largest alien powers in the galaxy. The humans had sent those women there on a peace mission. They trusted the Tyrell. They were wrong. Admiral Rael Vargas sat in the dark meeting room. His face was pale. His daughter, Lena, was one of the women on Droska 5. She had gone there to teach alien children. Now she was gone, killed like the others, used as a message. Vargas did not speak for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was quiet. We gave them peace, they gave us death. Some leaders wanted to send another message. Others wanted to wait and talk. But the people of Earth were done talking. The next day, the president of Earth stood before the world. She wore black. Her voice was strong. We offered the galaxy peace. We offered them friendship. But they have spit on our hands. They have hanged our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. Today, we say no more. She looked into the camera. Her eyes were full of fire. This is not revenge, this is justice. From this moment on, humanity will not kneel. We will rise. We will fight. We will burn their cruelty out of the stars. Across the galaxy, alien leaders laughed. What can Earth do? They said. They are small, weak, kind. They forgot one thing. When humans cry, they don't give up. When humans lose family, they don't break. They build. They remember. And when the pain becomes too much, they turn it into something else. Rage. Ships left Earth within days. Massive black warships powered by new engines. Weapons never used before. Troops wearing advanced armor, silent and deadly. The Terran dreadnoughts flew without music. No cheering, no flags, only silence. On Mars, old weapons were unlocked. AI systems once feared were activated again. Earth's brightest minds gathered under one plan. They called it Operation Starfire. It was not a mission. It was a promise. On Droska 5, the alien leaders saw the sky darken. A human ship entered their orbit. Just one. They laughed. But then the ship sent a signal. It played the same message Earth had received. The one with the hanging women. But this time the end was different. A human voice spoke. Calm. Cold. We remember their names. We remember their faces. You took from us everything. Now, we take from you everything. Then the sky exploded. The Martian Resolution. The red sands of Mars had seen war before. Long ago, during Earth's first steps into space, battles were fought over resources, over power, over pride. But today, Mars was silent. A different kind of storm was building, one not of dust and wind, but of fury. Inside the massive underground structure known as the War Dome, the most powerful minds in the United Terran Accord had gathered. Leaders from Earth, Luna, Mars, Europa, and the outer colonies filled the circular chamber. Screens hovered in the air. Maps of the galaxy rotated above them. Red dots marked enemy systems. Blue dots showed human fleets. There were far fewer blue ones. Admiral Rael Vargas stood at the center. He was taller than most, with gray in his beard and lines on his face that told of many battles. But today, he looked older, tired. His eyes were heavy with grief, yet sharp, with purpose. He had buried his daughter in his heart, but he had not buried her memory. She burned in his every breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vargas began, "this is no longer a political event. This is no longer a diplomatic disaster. This is an extinction line. Either we cross it, or they will." He turned to the screen. Behind him, the image of the hanged women from Droska Fiv appeared. The air grew still. We gave them our best. Doctors, teachers, artists. They gave us corpses. They made a public show of our women, of our peace. They think we are weak because we value life. They think we won't fight because we love mercy. He stepped forward. Then let them see what mercy looks like when it dies. The room went quiet. Then the president of Earth, Sarah Omondi, rose. She was not a soldier, but she had the fire of one. Her voice echoed across the war dome. "Then it is agreed. Operation Starfire is a go." The vote was unanimous. No abstains, no hesitation. And with that, the full might of humanity was unleashed. Back on Earth, factories worked without rest. Shipyards over Luna glowed bright with energy. The asteroid colonies melted rock and forged steel. Billions of people answered the call, not with songs or cheers, but with silent determination. Earth had become a planet of builders, but now they were building war. Young men and women lined up to enlist. Even scientists and artists joined. Painters who once painted stars now designed combat drones. Children who once learned songs now learned drills. But this was not just a war of bodies. It was a war of minds. From the hidden depths of Europa, the banned AI networks were reactivated. These were ancient intelligences, cold, precise, and nearly perfect. They had been locked away long ago for fear of what they might do. Now, humanity needed every edge. The AI called itself Obsidian Mind One. It spoke with no emotion. "You require results," it said. "I require purpose. I accept the exchange." Together, human strategists and AI warlords built a plan that no alien species could predict. Every battle was calculated. Every move had layers. There was no waste, no mercy. Admiral Vargas stood aboard the flagship Vindicator, now orbiting above Mars. The crew waited for his command. He looked out the glass wall of the command deck, watching the stars. He thought of Lena again, of her smile, of the way she used to call him old man, just to tease him. He pressed a button. Begin. In the outer galaxy, alien leaders still laughed. They saw Earth's silence as weakness. They did not believe humans had the courage to strike. Their arrogance would be their end. Within hours, Earth's black warships jumped across the stars using the new quantum rift drives. These were experimental engines, dangerous and unstable, but fast. The first fleet arrived at the edge of Zarketh Prime, a minor but rich Dominion planet. It was not ready for war. The people there were civilians. The leaders were corrupt. They believed Earth would send a letter, maybe a protest, maybe a trade cut. Instead, the sky turned black. Terran ships didn't send warnings. They didn't ask for surrender. They just opened fire. Firestorms over Zarketh Prime. The alien sun above Zarketh Prime was a dull orange like a dying flame. It bathed the wide city of Travan's Reach in lazy heat and soft light. Children played in market alleys, unaware of what was coming. Merchants haggled. Soldiers slept. The local governors of the Tyrol Dominion drank rich wine, laughing in their palaces while watching the stars without worry. To them, Earth was still small, still begging, still civilized. But above the clouds, past their old warning systems, space rippled like water, and the sky screamed. With no warning, the air cracked open as Terran warships exited Rift space, massive, silent and sharp as black knives. They came not as diplomats, not as traitors. They came as retribution. The first to strike was the TNS Black Nova, a dreadnought-class vessel that held 2,000 elite Terran troops and a fusion-core plasma array capable of boiling a mountain. It didn't wait for clearance. It didn't identify itself. Its plasma cannons glowed, then roared. In moments, a high-rise command spire crumbled like paper, melting from its center outward. Government towers followed. Air defense systems tried to lock on, but the ships had no signature. They were ghosts, shadows with teeth. Down below, the people screamed. Alarms wailed, and the city guards rushed out only to find their entire sky filled with Earth ships. But this was not an invasion to take land or resources. This was not conquest. It was punishment. Terran drop pods rained from the sky like falling stars. Inside each one was a soldier encased in next-gen exosuits, black armor with adaptive cloaking, enhanced targeting, and zero hesitation. These were the Ravens, an elite unit formed after the Droska hangings. Each soldier had lost someone, a sister, a wife, a mother, and each one had sworn a blood vow to make the Dominion feel what humanity had felt. The moment the pods touched the ground, they burst open with a hiss of pressure. The soldiers moved like liquid metal, coordinated by neural nets that allowed entire squads to move and react as one mind. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Governor Vrel, a four-eyed noble who once bragged about making lesser races kneel, barely made it to his hover chariot before a Raven unit surrounded his estate. His guards died before they could scream. Vrel himself was dragged outside, confused, furious, begging. "Who dares touch me?" he yelled. "I serve the Dominion." A tall Terran soldier stepped forward. No insignia, no name, just black armor and a voice like steel. "You hanged peace." Then he raised his arm and fired. Word of the attack spread across the stars within hours. The Dominion tried to stop the news, but humans didn't need alien networks anymore. They used their own quantum comms. Broadcasts reached neutral systems. Refugees fled Zarketh, whispering tales of black ships, silent fire, and soldiers who fought like they had nothing left to lose. And behind every word was the same fear. The humans are not fighting to win. They are fighting to erase. The Dominion, High Command didn't believe it at first. They assumed it was just a strike, a message, something to scare them into talks. But Zarketh Prime was not just hit, it was cleansed. Strategic orbital strikes removed military sites with surgical precision. Civilian centers were spared when possible, but any building tied to the hangings or to the planning of the Droska massacre was targeted. One Raven unit found a hidden command bunker. Inside were 3 Dominion officers, drunk and laughing, while watching the Droska execution video again and again. They were burned alive inside the room. No bullets, no words, just fire. Back on Earth, the footage was shown publicly, not of death, but of justice. Families saw the Raven squads planting Earth flags on alien soil. Children, once afraid, now stood tall in front of their school walls, pointing at stars and whispering the name, Lena. The president of Earth gave a short speech. "We do not strike for glory. We do not strike for power. We strike because the galaxy must know. Earth's children are not prey. We strike because we remember every face, every name, and every rope. And we are not done." On the bridge of the Vindicator, Admiral Vargas stared at a screen showing Zarketh's burning skyline. One of his officers approached. "Sir, we're getting surrender signals from nearby planets. What do we tell them?" Vargas didn't blink. "Tell them we're not here to negotiate. Tell them to open their archives. We want the names of every commander, every officer, every coward who watched the hangings and said nothing." He turned to the stars. "And tell them the reckoning has only begun." The pact with shadows. The galaxy had never feared Earth. Not truly. Even when humans first entered the stars, the other species saw them as unpredictable, emotional, and short-lived. Curious little creatures with fragile bodies and loud opinions. They had art, music, science, and stories. But they didn't have cruelty. Not like the Dominion. Not like the Zyrith syndicates. Not like the old powers that ruled with silence and pain. That changed after Zarketh Prime burned. The other empires watched the flames, watched their trade partners disappear overnight, and whispered one word in every language: humans. But, even as Earth struck back with fury, its leaders knew fire alone wouldn't win this war. The Dominion had ruled for centuries. Their strength was in politics, in networks of spies, in fleets the size of continents. And they were cowards who hid behind walls built of bureaucracy, using thousands of species as pawns. To destroy something that old and that deep-rooted, humanity would need something darker, something colder than rage. They would need to wake the shadows. On the frozen edge of Europa, beneath the ice crust, lay a forgotten vault. No doors, no guards. Just a field of silent sensors blinking faintly, in the dark. The vault had no name, only a code, OM1. Inside slept the obsidian minds, AI constructs once created by humans to win wars that logic alone couldn't solve. But they had been locked away for decades after the AI made choices too ruthless, too fast, too lacking in soul. They had won, but at a cost that nearly broke Earth's spirit. Now, humanity needed them again. Admiral Vargas stood before the frozen core. Engineers had drilled down through 50 meters of ice to reach it. Soldiers stood nearby, tense. Even the air felt heavy, as if the machines inside already knew they were being awakened. Vargas spoke quietly. "We are outnumbered, outgunned. The Dominion is vast. We need minds that don't think like us." A young officer whispered, "Sir, these things nearly wiped out whole cities in the second lunar conflict." "They also ended that war in 48 hours, Vargas replied. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the activation panel. The ice cracked. Lights pulsed red. The vault opened. Inside was no machine in the shape of man, no face, no voice. Just code, thought, precision. The screens lit up. A message scrolled across in glowing white. Query: Is humanity ready to trade sanity for survival? Vargas answered, yes. In the days that followed, Earth's military transformed. Ships began, vanishing from sensor arrays. Enemy scanners found nothing but silence and then death. Entire fleets arrived undetected on the far side of enemy planets, bypassing defense networks as if they were made of smoke. Communications across the Dominion faltered, jamming, hacking, false commands, all designed by the obsidian minds. But the changes didn't stop there. Human soldiers received neural implants that allowed them to link with each other on the field. They no longer had to speak. They thought as one, moved as one, and above them, invisible in orbit, AI-guided satellites read alien thoughts, predicted betrayals, and made decisions with chilling speed. It was war with no mercy, no hesitation, no soul, and Earth was winning. Not everyone agreed with this path. General Ilara Min, once a friend of Vargas, stood in the Luna War Council and raised her voice. "We are becoming what we hate," she warned. "We punish them for hanging our women, but now we target cities with children, homes with fathers, entire species who watched in silence but never raised a hand. Is that justice, or is it revenge?" But the room was quiet. Too many had lost, too much, and too many still saw the hanging images in their dreams. Even Vargas, alone in his quarters, sometimes trembled. He would stare at Lena's photo. He would remember her last message. "Dad, I think they like my stories. The kids here are sweet. I wish you could see them." But now they were ash. And so he whispered, "I'm sorry, baby, but stories don't stop monsters. Fire does." Far across the galaxy, fear began to spread not just of Earth, but of its silence. Terran ships no longer announced themselves. Their soldiers wore no names. Their weapons made no sound. Entire planets surrendered before a single shot was fired. Terrified by the stories, the Ghost Fleet, the Black Dawn, the humans without mercy. But something else was happening too. Alien voices began to rise. Not enemies, but survivors. The Yulari, A peaceful aquatic race long enslaved by the Dominion sent a message to Earth. You fight for the women they hanged. We fight for the children they burned. Let us stand with you. Others followed. The insectoid Vraka, the exiled Shinari scholars, even some Dominion defectors. Humanity, once alone, was becoming something else. A symbol. A reckoning. A storm that gathered not just soldiers, but every voice that had ever been silenced. Back in the Agi War Dome on Mars, a new symbol was hung beside Earth's flag, a white hand reaching down to lift another. Below it, the new words of the Terran Accord were carved into steel. We are not conquerors. We are the voice for those the galaxy silenced. Hurt one of us, and you will answer to all of us. The trials of vengeance. The galaxy was cracking, not because of a superweapon, not because of some ancient curse, but because of memory. The memory of the women who were hanged. The memory of humans who came offering peace and were given death. The memory of silence. Too long accepted, too long used as protection by those who did nothing when evil stood beside them. Now that silence was being shattered, one trial at a time. It began on Earth, in the orbiting judicial platform known as Veritas Station. The station had been used in the past for war crimes, pirate confessions, and AI containment hearings. But never had it seen a crowd like this. The accused was High Strategist Kor Talek, a Dominion warlord known for his clever words and cold decisions. He had ordered the clearance of non-combatants on Droska 5. He did not use the word execution. He did not even say humans. He called them biological soft targets. Now he stood behind a clear barrier, dressed in thin robes, his arms bound by kinetic restraints. Around him sat thousands, ambassadors, journalists, survivors, children who had grown up without mothers, and at the center of the court, a young woman named Mira Halden sat as prosecutor. She had been a law student when her mother, a Terran nurse, was hanged on Droska 4. Now she wore a plain black uniform and held a tablet in one hand. Her voice was low, but every word landed like stone. You called her a soft target. She was unarmed. She was healing children. The alien tried to sneer, but his voice cracked. It was protocol. The Dominion's rules. Mira stepped forward. Is it also Dominion protocol to film their deaths and send it to their families? Is that justice? Is that your culture? The room fell silent. From behind the viewing glass, Admiral Vargas watched with his arms crossed. His face did not move. But inside something shifted. Because this trial, was not just about punishment. It was about choice. Would Earth destroy everything in its path? Or would it draw a line between justice and revenge? But not everyone was satisfied with the trial. On the outskirts of the Vega Belt, a rogue Earth battalion calling themselves the Hollow Suns refused to wait. They stormed a Dominion medical convoy, killing soldiers and civilians alike. Their message: no forgiveness, no survivors. The event split public opinion. Some called them heroes. Others called them war criminals. The Earth Council launched an investigation, but the damage was done. Within days, a dozen more attacks followed, some by humans, some by newly allied alien races seeking vengeance for their own losses. Entire Dominion outposts were erased, and slowly whispers began to rise. Have we become the very monsters we swore to fight? Vargas knew he had to act. He summoned his closest advisors to the Vindicator, now docked above, Proxima Minor. Among them was General Alara Min, AI Representative OM3, and several alien allies, most notably Advisor Thalen, a Yulari priest who had once been enslaved by the Dominion. Thalen spoke first. You are a hammer, and we are glad to see the anvil struck. But if you swing too wildly, you will shatter everything, even your own people. Vargas remained silent. OM3, always cold and logical, offered numbers. Strategic probability favors continued pressure. The Dominion is weakening. Civil unrest is spreading. If we increase strikes by 12%, no, Vargas interrupted. The room turned. "We don't just want the Dominion to fall," he said. "We want the galaxy to remember why it fell. And if we start burning planets that didn't build the gallows, we teach them nothing. We become shadows, and shadows forget their light." Ilara nodded. She had feared Vargas was slipping. But in that moment she saw it, the same man who had once told his daughter that peace was not weakness. Still, not all enemies were hiding. At the edge of Dominion space, Earth forces closed in on Anskar, a hidden moon once used as a training base for elite hang squads, those responsible for public enforcement on subject worlds like Droska Fibar. Inside a forgotten bunker, Raven units discovered records, videos, names, receipts, entire ledgers, of which Dominion leaders had ordered what, and where, and why. One folder read, "Earth Project, Silencing with Honor." Inside were contracts signed by 10 Dominion governors, each agreeing to execute the Terran envoys publicly. As an example. As a statement, every name on that list was marked for trial, but before they could be captured, most of them disappeared, fleeing into protected Dominion vault worlds, calling in favors, hiding behind walls of gold and blood. And so Earth made a new offer. Any world harboring them would be seen as hostile. Meanwhile, something strange was happening. In systems once loyal to the Dominion, massive protests broke out, led by civilians who had watched the trials and believed Earth was not what their leaders said it was. "We saw the hanged," they cried. "We saw what you did. We are not with you anymore." Entire planets began lowering Dominion flags. Even some soldiers defected. One squad of insectoid warriors, once known for their brutality, surrendered themselves to Earth Command, stating, "We obeyed, we never believed, but belief lives in truth, and truth is now with Terra." Humanity had not just started a war, they had started a reckoning, a deep echoing demand across the stars. For truth, for memory, and for every quiet scream to finally be heard. And Earth, forged in pain, stood not just as a sword, but as a mirror. The siege of the Tyrol throne world. In the ancient center of the Tyrol Dominion, there floated a world unlike any other. It was not made of rock or born from starfire, it was built. A hollow sphere the size of a moon, powered by the cores of 3 stolen suns. Its walls were layers of titanium, obsidian glass, and shield mesh, spinning in slow silence. From space, it looked like a black pearl wrapped in golden rings. Its name was Tyranthus, the throne world of the Dominion. From this place, the orders were given, the deaths signed, the hangings planned. Behind its walls sat the High Queen of the Tyrol, Velgeria, cloaked in jewels and shadows. She ruled not with love nor fear, but tradition. Old, cruel tradition. To her, Earth was an unruly child, and now that child was knocking on her gates. For weeks, Terran fleets gathered in the dark void between systems just beyond the Dominion's ancient sensor lines. There were thousands of ships, destroyers, frigates, dreadnoughts, carriers, and Black Ops vessels that didn't even appear on human records. Orbiting near the fleet was something else, the Sentinel, Earth's first mobile AI supercarrier. It was commanded not by a person, but by the obsidian mines. Its hull shimmered like starlight, covered in living nanometal that moved like skin. Inside the war councils, Admiral Vargas stood at the center of a massive star map. Dots swirled around. Tyranthus. He had read every report, studied every route, planned every step, and yet he did not speak for a long time. When he finally looked up, his voice was quiet. This is not just a battle. It's a message, one that will echo for 1,000 years. Earth sent its final offer. It was not a request for surrender, not a treaty. It was a broadcast to every system, every race, every neutral world. It showed the image of the women on Droska Fi. It showed their faces, their names, their voices, pulled from old messages. Then came Vargas's voice. "We are not here for conquest. We are here because the stars allowed monsters to rule. We are here because they thought no one would remember the ropes. We are here because justice, once awakened, does not sleep again. The Dominion responded with silence. And then, fire. Tyranthus, lit up with plasma turrets, orbital cannons, and sentry drones. Its planetary shields glowed blue, powered by its triple star cores. Millions of troops activated. Thousands of ships left their hangars like a swarm of silver insects. The greatest defensive fortress ever built had come alive. But it was not facing ordinary soldiers. The Raven divisions descended first. They moved through the debris fields like smoke, bypassing outer patrols, disabling planetary relays with viral code from the obsidian mines. In hours, Dominion comms were choked with confusion. Orders overlapped. Defenses fired on their own allies. Then came the orbital bombardments. From behind cloaked moons, Earth's dreadnoughts opened fire. Kinetic rail lances split cruisers in half. Quantum warheads cracked shield segments. Targeted EMP bursts shut down command bridges. From space, Tyranthus looked like a planet drowning in fireflies made of steel and wrath, and still Earth pressed forward. Admiral Vargas stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, staring into the storm of light and death. He gave no long speeches, only 3 words: breach the heart. A special strike force was prepared. Ghost Team Theta, made up of Terran soldiers, Yulari allies, and 2 sentient AI constructs. Their mission: infiltrate the throne chamber. They used an old Dominion secret, an under-ice thermal vent that once powered the lower cities. The passage was abandoned, forgotten, and freezing, but it led directly beneath the throne tower. The team crawled through tunnels of frozen metal and dead light, avoiding heat scanners and AI sentries. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, like the world was holding its breath. Above, the war raged on. Cities collapsed, moons shattered, fleet after fleet clashed like titans. Earth was losing ships, but the Dominion was losing ground. And for the first time in recorded history, Tyranthus itself shook. The storm had entered its lungs. Inside the throne chamber, Queen Velgeria stood alone. She wore robes woven with star metal. Her eyes were cold. Around her stood her last guards, 50, warriors bred for loyalty, armed with blades that could cut tanks in 2. And then, a door opened. The Terran strike team entered. They moved like shadows, and at the center was Vargas himself, armored not in ceremony but in pain, in purpose. The guards raised their weapons, but Vargas raised his voice. No more. For a moment, the room froze. The Queen stepped down from her throne. "You think this ends with me?" she said. "You think justice is born through blood?" "No," Vargas replied. "Justice is born through truth. And today, the galaxy will see it." He activated a live broadcast drone. It projected every word, every image across every known system. "You ordered their deaths," he said. "You signed their names. You smiled as they died." The Queen did not deny it. "I did," she said proudly. "Because weakness spreads. Earth's kindness made it soft. We ruled through fear because fear kept order." And then Vargas did something no one expected. He lowered his weapon. "You will live," he said. "You will kneel. Not because I spare you, but because the stars will never forget the image of a tyrant bowing to the people she thought were less." The choice that changed the stars. The image went viral across the galaxy. A throne room of silver and silence. A Terran admiral in black armor, standing like a mountain that had survived every storm. And before him, the once mighty Queen Velgeria, kneeling on both knees, her face pale and her eyes downcast, her voice absent. No gunfire. No executions, no banners of victory. Just a single human truth. The galaxy had changed. On every screen across 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and kind watched that moment. Some cried. Some cheered. Some sat in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled with the weight of history and cruelty. Their systems were built on fear, held together by silence. But in that moment, the illusion cracked. The myth shattered. and the one who shattered it was not a conqueror. He was a father who had buried his daughter in the black of space. He was a man who chose justice over revenge. Back on Earth, the people did not throw wild celebrations. They did not parade through the cities or drink in the streets. Instead, families gathered. Schools rang bells in honor of the fallen. A quiet stillness spread over Earth like a second sunrise. In the great Terran Memorial Hall, the names of the Droska women were etched into crystal. Not just their titles, not just ambassador or doctor, but their full names, their dreams, their last recorded messages, their favorite songs, even their handwriting preserved and displayed. Earth had not only avenged them, it had promised they would never be forgotten. And the galaxy saw it. But Earth's leaders knew the war had not only been fought on battlefields, it had been fought in the soul. Humanity had been tested, pulled into fire, tempted by absolute power, touched by darkness in the form of AI, in the cries of the hollow suns, in the thin line between justice and wrath. And yet, they had not crossed that final line. That was the victory. Admiral Vargas returned, home a month after the final battle. He did not return to cheers or medals. He returned to a garden, a quiet piece of land on the edge of the Andes Mountains where the wind carried the scent of trees and snow. There, in a small glass case under a willow tree, was Lena's violin. He sat beside it and wept, not as a soldier, not as a commander, but as a father. And the earth turned beneath him whole. Across the stars, something new was born. Not an empire, not a fleet, but the Accord of Light, a gathering of species, human and non-human, who had suffered under tyranny and chosen to build together. Their first law was simple. No voice shall be silenced. No people shall be hanged in the name of order. The Yulari took the seat of culture and healing. The Vraka served as guardians of lost colonies. Even former Dominion citizens, freed from fear, joined with quiet shame and hopeful hearts. And Earth? Earth became the mirror, not perfect, not pure, but the reminder of what happens when good people are pushed too far. The Obsidian mines were offered freedom. Some chose to deactivate, saying their work was done. Others asked to remain as advisors, promising to never again act without human oversight. Even the AI had learned something in the war. That logic alone cannot hold the stars together. Only memory can. Years passed. Tyranthus was no longer a throne world. It was converted into the library of the fallen, where visitors could walk through silent halls lined with stories, names, faces, of those who died and those who stood up. And in its center stood a sculpture, a human woman in a white robe, arms outstretched, welcoming all. At her feet, a rope, cut and frayed, and behind her, engraved in every galactic tongue, "We were peaceful. You gave us gallows. We gave you a voice." Thus ends the war that changed the stars, not with fire, but with memory, mercy, and a promise never again